No one expected this. The idea of Sergio Perez wearing Mercedes colors just a few years from now has thrown everyone off balance. The scenario sounds wild, but when you start connecting the dots, things begin to make a strange kind of sense. George Russell, once seen as a future pillar of the Silver Arrows, is now caught in a situation that's far from straightforward. Rumors are swirling that his contract extension is not as secure as it once seemed. On top of that, if Max Verstappen ever decides that Aston Martin suits his ambitions more than Red Bull, then the entire grid could shift. In a twist like this, it wouldn't be surprising to see Mercedes making a move toward a driver like Perez. But before anyone jumps to conclusions, remember, nothing here is official. It's all based on possibilities that might become real if things start to unravel at Red Bull, and if Verstappen does walk away, it's likely to spark a chain reaction that affects almost every top team, including Mercedes. Right now, everything seems to depend on what Verstappen decides in the coming months. If he grows tired of how things are going at Red Bull, it could open the door for a major move in 2026. That possibility is one reason Russell hasn't yet finalized his deal with Mercedes. The team, known for its calculated decisions, appears to be in no rush. Although they've hinted that an agreement with Russell is likely once the F1 season moves into Europe, nothing is guaranteed until the signature is on the paper. Meanwhile, sources within the team have suggested that talks are still at an early stage. That raises the question, are they waiting to see where Verstappen ends up before committing to Russell? If Verstappen's contract becomes a talking point again, and if his exit becomes even slightly realistic, then teams like Mercedes and Aston Martin will definitely be paying close attention. It's a situation where every move is carefully watched, and one big decision can change everything. This entire situation has become more tense than most expected. Verstappen's exit clause could soon become one of the most discussed topics in the sport, especially if Red Bull struggles to stay at the front. Should he consider leaving, the two teams most likely to fight for him are Mercedes and Aston Martin. If you're Verstappen, you might favor a setup that has worked well for you, like the combination of Adrian Newey's engineering and Honda's power, which would now be part of the Aston Martin project. There's also the factor of teammates. At Aston Martin, Verstappen wouldn't have to worry much about being challenged by Lance Stroll. Despite the optimism surrounding the Canadian driver, he hasn't shown the form needed to push for wins or championships. That makes Aston Martin a more attractive option, less internal rivalry, and a familiar technical foundation. If that switch happens, it leaves Red Bull needing a new team leader, and that's where Russell could come in. If Red Bull loses Verstappen, they'll need someone with experience and stability to take the lead. Among their current prospects, only Isaac Hadjar has shown glimpses of real potential, but he's not ready to fill that gap yet. That's why Russell becomes such a valuable option for them. But convincing him won't be easy. Red Bull would need to come up with a strong offer, both in terms of money and car performance, especially because Mercedes is still seen by many as the team with the most promising engine setup heading into the future. Russell hasn't committed yet, and that delay is causing a stir. Some believe it's a strategic play by Mercedes. People inside the paddock, including Sky F1's Martin Brundle, think Mercedes is intentionally putting pressure on Russell. He pointed out that it's odd for a driver of Russell's level not to have a renewed contract by now. Usually, extensions for top drivers are handled well before they get this close to expiry, but maybe that's part of the bigger plan. Brundle explained it further by saying Mercedes might be trying to keep Russell on edge, possibly to gain an upper hand in negotiations. The team has a unique position. Not only are they his employers, but they're also involved in managing his career. That puts them in control, and they might be using that to their advantage. Still, this kind of move can be risky. If they wait too long, Russell could start to explore his options elsewhere. This brings us back to Perez. On the surface, his link to Mercedes might seem like a stretch, but according to motorsport.com, there have already been initial talks between the two sides. That shows the interest is not just fan speculation. While nothing is final, The fact that Mercedes is even open to the idea says a lot about the uncertainty around Russell's position. They aren't taking anything off the table, and Perez could be a solid backup plan if things don't go as expected with their current driver. Some fans might remember that in the past, Toto Wolff mentioned never reaching out to Perez regarding a potential seat alongside Russell. That was true then, but things have clearly changed. The recent performance issues at Red Bull, especially with the second car, have forced everyone to reassess what's really going on. It's now becoming clear that the blame shouldn't fall solely on Perez. Drivers like Tsunoda and Lawson have also struggled under similar circumstances, which casts a different light on the situation. This shift in perception has actually boosted Perez's standing. Cadillac, for example, is reportedly showing strong interest in bringing him on board. That alone could make other teams sit up and take notice. Mercedes knows the value of an experienced driver who still has plenty to offer. If they feel Russell might leave, or that Antonelli could soon step into a lead role, they might not want to take chances. Someone like Perez becomes a very useful name to have in the mix. Interestingly, Perez's potential shift to Mercedes could be influenced by more than just his driving abilities. The Mexican driver brings significant sponsorship opportunities, and that could be a huge draw for a team like Mercedes. With the ongoing pressure to stay ahead in terms of finances and global appeal, a driver like Perez could help secure crucial backing, especially with his popularity in markets like Latin America. In the midst of this, another factor worth considering is the deal that Perez has with Cadillac. After discussions with the American team during the Miami GP, Perez could be setting himself up for a future in the United States, away from the European circuits. This move would not only make sense from a financial perspective but also from a competitive one. Cadillac could benefit immensely from his experience and marketability, and in return, Perez would be in a team that appreciates his value, not just as a driver, but as a commercial asset. As the 2026 season looms closer, the eToro landscape of Formula One could look drastically different. If Verstappen decides to leave Red Bull, it will shake up the entire grid, opening doors for unexpected moves. Perez, despite being labeled as the second driver for so long, is now in a position to capitalize on the shifting dynamics. Whether it's a potential move to Mercedes or even a surprise collaboration with Cadillac, his future is far from certain but certainly full of intriguing possibilities. However, Mercedes isn't just considering Perez for his driving skills. With the possibility of them becoming a customer team for Alpine in the near future, Perez's connections and sponsorship opportunities could give Mercedes a new edge as well. This adds an interesting layer to the equation, where Perez could end up playing a key role not only in driving but also in helping the team's broader business strategy. In the end, much depends on what happens in the next few months. Russell's future at Mercedes, Verstappen's next move, and Perez's ongoing talks with multiple teams will determine how the grid will shift in 2026. For now, though, we can only wait and watch as these events unfold, knowing that Formula One is about to enter a period of unprecedented change.